Hi friends, welcome back. For the past couple of weeks, I have been working on a new painting, and I tried really hard to film all of it from start to finish so that you guys could kind of see the entire process from idea, from like concept to finished painting. And to be perfectly honest, that just didn't happen. I had a bunch of technical difficulties. There was one day I just didn't actually press the button on my camera. I had days when the battery died in the middle of my filming, and it didn't happen the way that I wanted it to happen. So I have video of about half of the process, and in editing that, I honestly thought that this would be enough, I guess, and that you guys would be excited to see what I did get recorded. This is also a bit of a last minute recording. None of my other videos are remotely ready to go, and this painting is done. So, without further ado, here is my latest painting, which I haven't named yet. So, if you have any name ideas, please drop them in the comments because I could use some ideas. So, like I said, I had every intention of recording this entire process for this painting, and it really feels like it was just a comedy of errors of the number of times things went wrong. But I'm going to focus on the stuff that went right, because otherwise I think it's just going to drive me nuts. I lost files. Like I said, we're going to focus on the good stuff. So I actually really like the way the colors turned out in this piece. I wanted it to look a little bit dreary, but very fall. It's spring, which means it is ridiculously hot where I live. And as soon as it gets this hot out, I start to already be ready for summer. So I wanted to make a piece that really highlighted one of my favorite seasons, which is fall. I think that's actually my favorite season. It's not one of them, it's my favorite season. Fall is the best. It's cooler, but not too cool. It's not windy like spring. It's just nice. I like fall. So that was the vibe I was going for with this piece. And in this part, I'm definitely getting too light, so I start adding more darker tones, and I'm going to kind of go back and forth with these two color options a lot just to kind of get a gauge on which one I feel matches the piece and the vibe that I'm going for. I haven't really painted something as off the cuff as this one in a while. I've been doing a lot more planning for my pieces, and this one was just, you know what, I want to do something kind of quick and kind of fun and play with some fall themes and some, I don't know, more moody colors. Like I said, that's just kind of my jam. I like it. So instead of doing any planning for this at all, I painted a background that I really liked. I actually I recorded the painting of that background and then apparently deleted the file. But I did that, and the background is actually one of those styles that looks really complicated, but actually took me, I don't know, like 30 minutes. It didn't take very long. It looks like it takes a lot more layering and a lot more attention to detail than it does. And that's just one of the things that I love with that style. It just comes out super nice without having to do a ton of effort. Where like this hill that I'm working on now, I'm already on layer like 4 or 5, and I'm pretty happy with it at this point, but I am going to keep adding colors throughout this process because sometimes I feel like it's too dark and sometimes I feel like it's too light. And I think this is pretty common for a lot of artists. You just kind of go back and forth until you get to the exact tone that you like. That bottom section, I just painted it all kind of a flatter green because the intention is for that to be another hill. So I wanted to kind of keep that color separated, but I also didn't want to keep getting distracted by the white portion at the bottom of the canvas. So I just wanted to get some color on it for right now, and that way I can think and I can move on to this tree. Again, I'm going for more of a fall vibe, so I didn't want to have too many leaves on the trees. I didn't want the trees to be too lush and springy or summery or, I don't know, too happy, I guess. I wanted them to have some leaves, but more of the color change, and I wanted your eyes to kind of see the leaves more than the trees. The trees themselves the color is kind of designed to disappear into the background, where the leaves are so vivid, especially up against that very stormy background, that what you should see is the leaves and then notice that they're on a tree instead of seeing the trees and then noticing that they have these brightly colored leaves. I really enjoyed painting these, though. I like trees, obviously. Trees are just one of the more fun things for me to paint. So I do spend a lot of time kind of honing my skills on trees. I feel like I'm really good at the branches, and a lot of the time I'm not as great at getting the actual leaf detail done. So that was really fun for this piece to actually spend some time like painting individual leaves and getting that bit of practice on, actually putting leaves and intentionally placing leaves, because it's just not a thing that I do very often. I do paint a lot of winter scenes, or I'll do the kind of trees where you don't do individually painted leaves. You just kind of pat your brush on the canvas and you get like the leaf texture without getting the leaf appearance, I guess it is. It's the easiest way I know how to explain it. The number of tiny videos that this one video is made up of, I think I have about a dozen little bitty recordings because I just kept having camera trouble. I know I keep saying I'm not going to tell you about all the problems I had when I was recording this, but you're going to hear snippets, okay? Just snippets. It was a hassle. So I'm also trying not to sound frustrated because I am really happy with how this piece turned out, but I am really frustrated with the amount of work that ended up going into just compiling these videos into something that's not a mess and that hopefully is fun for you guys to watch. This one was definitely a lot of fun for me to paint. It took me probably about 2 weeks, but I didn't spend an absolute ton of time working on it. I had my first occupational therapy session in the middle and ended up having to take I think I took 3 days off from painting. I didn't even really work out after that first session. My arm was just not pleased, which my occupational therapist said would probably be a thing. So it was actually nice to hear that it wasn't like a problem. It was common, and it does make sense. Like, you've been fiddling with this nerve that's angry, so of course it's going to be more angry because you've been fiddling with it. But that did mean that I had to take more time off from painting than I was anticipating, which meant that this painting ended up taking me a little bit longer than I had hoped, which honestly I think is probably part of what led to it being a little bit frustrating in the recording side of things. But again, I do think that it really turned out very pretty. I am very happy with how it turned out. I actually had all sorts of other ideas for stuff that I was going to add to this piece, and by the end of this video, I looked at it or the end of what you'll see in this video rather, I looked at it and I thought to myself, I don't think it needs anything else. I think it's just done. And that hasn't happened in a while, so that was just a really nice feeling where I wasn't just to where I thought it was going to be the end of a painting and then realized I needed to add something else. It was, I got to where I thought was going to be almost the end and realized that was it. I didn't need anything else. This is like my favorite leaf shape, and I know that I paint it on everything, but I love it, and most of my paintings are supposed to be taking place in the same world and the same forest. So I'm just going to keep painting these leaves because I like them. And I think that they really suit the feel that I'm going for because I'm trying to make it kind of magic-y but not too magic-y. Because if you hadn't noticed, or if you hadn't realized, this one is going to be a part of the Fox and the Fairy series. So there will be a fox. And I'm trying to make this kind of light fantasy, so not too much in the fantastical realm, but enough that you can tell that it's not the real world. It's like a magical version of the real world. Think Harry Potter, but a little bit cuter. Not that Harry Potter's not like cute. You know what I mean. So I ended up spending a good deal of time just adding in little tiny details and making these little leaves look exactly how I wanted them to look. I probably spent more time on those leaves than I did on almost anything else on this painting. I definitely spent more time on the leaves in this layer than I did on the fox as a whole. So I think I could have dialed that back a little bit. I kept changing my mind on what color I wanted them to be, and I think I should have just stuck with them being the aqua with a little bit of white, but in the end I am still happy with how they look, and I think that they're really pretty. It got to the point that I felt like I was messing with them too much, which is probably why they're not my favorite, but I still think they look really pretty, and I am really happy with them. I wouldn't go back and change it realistically, but looking at it in the video, I'm like, why are you spending so much time on these leaves? If it's the leaves in the trees, then it makes sense, but like the little leaves on the ground, like, again, I paint those all the time. What are you doing, Ronnie? What are you doing? Who knows? So I wanted to add enough detail to the trees that they didn't just look flat in comparison to everything else. I had been looking at this from a distance a little bit, and I recognized that I had a lot of depth and a lot of detail in the background with the various colors that I had in there. I had a ton of depth in the hills with the sheer mass of color that I ended up putting to get to the shades that I wanted. And the trees were just falling a little bit flat. So I started adding various colors to them. At the end, I did spend a little bit of time adding some colored pencil details into the trees even, which I think honestly made them pop a little bit more. I really liked that. This portion that you're seeing here, I'm just doing the one color, I think, but I do end up putting 3 or 4 different shades into just the tree bark, just to get it to where it didn't lay as flat as it had been, because they just didn't look quite right with the trees being just a flat color and then everything else having this depth and dimension and kind of movement and life to it. I also tried to vary the leaf color. I think you can see it better when I have the canvas sideways like this, but I've got 3 colors on leaves in the far background and then I change the colors slightly as I move forward into the front of the painting, obviously. So in the background, I have more of a peach and then a couple of pinks. And as I move forward, I move into more magentas and darker purples, which I think again just adds that other level of depth into it. I also spent some time putting these on the ground because again, we're going for fall, so the leaves should be on the ground. I am assuming that this is somewhere where it is windy, so not all of the leaves will be just collected around the trees, but there would be some. So that was another way that I kind of spent some time playing with leaf shapes, was to just put them on the ground and make them kind of make it make a little bit more sense, because if you see those fall colors on the trees but you don't see any on the ground, it just kind of conjures up a bunch of questions in your mind of, is somebody raking? Where did the leaves go? Or maybe that's just a question that I have when that happens, but I have seen other artists' paintings where they have these gorgeous, gorgeous colors to the leaves in their trees, but then the ground is green. And every time I see those, I'm like, but what about the leaves that fell? So that was something that I really wanted to make sure that I addressed with this piece, is that yes, there are some leaves on the ground. I kind of based the tree shape and the tree style off of cottonwoods. I probably could have had them be a little bit more bendy for being a cottonwood, but cottonwoods have kind of a very distinct leaf pattern. Like, they're only in little tufts at the very ends of the branches. Like, you know how a lot of trees will have just clusters of leaves everywhere, and they'll have little branches all over the place that have more and more leaves. Cottonwoods don't do that. It all goes up, and then at the very top there's a little tuft of leaves, and they get cotton in the spring and I think in the fall too. But they just look really cool, and they're what's in the area that I live, so they're the ones that I'm kind of the most familiar with because I see them all the time. So I wanted to base these off of, at least shape-wise and leaf-wise, off of something that I know pretty well. This is my evidence that I did try to film the painting of the fox. I didn't realize that my other camera battery was already dead, and this one is gonna die, like right now. So I did paint a fox. I did try to paint it on camera, and it didn't work because my camera died. And that's my bad. I definitely should have checked to make sure that my camera batteries were charged before starting to paint the fox, but I really wanted to paint the fox right then, so I didn't bother to make sure that the batteries were charged, and I didn't want to wait to get them charged. I just really wanted to paint the fox. So I did, and it's not on camera. I'm sorry. So here you can see I'm adding a little bit more of those lighter tones into the leaves too. Just more leaves everywhere. I think I really wanted those leaves to be like the shining star. I did the blue fox on this painting not necessarily with the intention of him kind of almost disappearing into the painting, but I really like that his colors mean that he is not super duper vivid on this painting. The most vivid thing is those leaves. And again, that's really what I was going for. I wanted this to be a fall painting. I wanted this to be a painting where you really embrace the feel and the season and the almost emotion that is in fall. I had every intention when I started of actually having both the foxes. So the blue fox would be where he is right now, and then the red fox would be a little closer to the foreground. But looking at it, even at this point, I'm going, I don't know where I'm gonna fit that red fox, because this just looks really nice right now. Like it doesn't need the other fox. It looks very close to a complete painting. I'm just adding another tree into the foreground just to give it a little bit more detail, a little bit more dimension. Again, I'm adding those extra colors into the tree trunks. Again, just dimension, dimension, dimension. Trying to make everything blend in as well as I can. And then, in case you couldn't guess, more of my favorite leaves. I don't actually know what kind of plant this would be that I paint all the time, but he's so cute that it's whatever. He's my own made up plant. He's adorable. I love him. I can't be stopped. This plant shall be featured in many paintings. Many, many paintings. So at this point we are nearly done. I am really starting to recognize at this point that this painting doesn't need another fox. If I added a fairy, she would only detract from what I was wanting to do with having the attention be on the fall colors. Almost if I add anything else, it would detract from what I was hoping to achieve with this piece. So honestly, I'm really happy with this painting. It may have been a complete pain in the butt to film. It may have been a complete pain in the butt to put together for a video. But every time I look at this painting, legitimately, it makes me so happy. I absolutely love how it turned out. I am just thrilled to have gotten through a painting of this size so quickly again. I admittedly have been a little discouraged with my hand being in pain not infrequently, so getting through kind of a bigger piece like this in just a couple of weeks was awesome, and I hope you guys love this piece as much as I do. So in true fashion for this painting, I actually ended up doing some more details even after what I got for the recording. So I added some more details into the trees. In several of my paintings, you'll notice I kind of add this like mossy detail to a lot of the trees. So I added that. I did a super pale lime green for moss on the trees, and I added some additional texturing in the trees and some more colored pencil colors to the trees themselves. I also added some extra shading into the fox, which I know that didn't get filmed. It was supposed to. I noticed that my battery died almost right away, but I already had the sketch done. I already had the paints on my palette, and it was one of those where it was like, well, it's just not going to get recorded, and oh well. So I still ended up, I'm still happy with the video as a whole, and I absolutely love this painting. So I really just wanted to spend a couple of extra minutes showing you guys some of the little details. I tried really hard to use kind of the same color palette between the ground and the sky, but make it not super obvious that I did that. So the green that's in the sky is the same viridian hue that's in the grass, and the same purple color is in some of these leaves on the two closer trees. So this one, and this one, they all have that same purple color. And there's a little bit of blue. There is honestly only a little bit of blue in that sky color, and there's a little bit of that in the grass as well, and I believe there's a little bit in the fox too. And that was one of the things that I was trying really hard to focus on for this one, was making sure that the colors were in the same palette, and that, again, that to me really speaks of fall. Fall kind of has that thing where everything is similar tones, similar shades, and so I really wanted to highlight that specifically in this piece. I haven't, like I said, I haven't done a whole lot of fall pieces, so this one was a really fun challenge, and I really enjoyed it. I love how it came out. I probably spent the most time just figuring out how I wanted the grass and everything to be shaded. I wanted it to look a little bit more like fantasy and mystical. So instead of having a ton of these little grass details, I wanted it to be almost like glassy. So it's grass and you're aware that it's grass, but from a distance where you as the viewer are standing, it would just look like almost like glassy water. I absolutely love that look to grass. It happens more, well, I live in a desert, so I don't actually witness this a whole lot, but I know I saw that when I was in like Ireland. The grassy hills, from a distance, it just looks so, it looks like a picturesque kind of glassy glade of grass, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And so that's what I was trying to go for in feel, not so much in color, because I didn't want that like bright emerald green, but I think I captured what I was going for. I'm legitimately really happy with this piece. I had planned on adding another fox probably around here and potentially putting a fairy up in here, but it's done. I got to this point and it's done. And yeah, so I just wanted to spend a couple extra minutes just showing you the final version, since that didn't really make it into the video either. And I hope that you guys like this one as much as I do. I do apologize for all the video issues. Hopefully the next one will be better, but I hope that you enjoy this one nevertheless, and that you love this painting as much as I do, because I'm really pleased with it. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in a couple weeks with a whole new video. Bye!